and I think it's really important that we tell each other these stories about what's happening in academic publishing, because you'll probably note by my tone towards the end of the talk that I'm really pissed off, actually. So, and I try to be academic, but I'm really mad. So I'm going to describe what happened to us as a kind of Faustian bargain, because it really did feel that we had to sign a pact with the devil. I'm showing you the last, and our devil is Taylor and Francis. I saw that it wasn't on the list of good open access practices. Yes, bad open access practices. That's what I suspect. So my journal was founded in 1979 by some of the heavyweights of Canadian political economy. So these are people who have Canada Research Chairs, et cetera. So we've been around for a really long time. And within the Canadian Association of Learned Journals, we were very much seen as a little engine that could for years, because we published independently along all of the chain. So we took charge of everything. We did it ourselves. As you may imagine, that actually costs some money, because we do hire, and we have had under our employ 2 staff members. We used to do all of our subscriptions ourselves, manage it all ourselves. We had a business manager. We also have had an editorial administrator who's a professional copy editor and also a writer and producer herself, with us for over 10 years. In fact, she's been working with us for 13 years. Now, one of the important things about my journal is that our subtitle, you can't read it probably, but it is a socialist review. So being a socialist, we're also committed to decent work, which means that the person who was under our employ was also following, she wasn't unionized because she's a contract employee, but she did benefit from the salary scales and the wages, the benefits of the staff at Carleton University, because it's housed at Carleton University. And as you can imagine, that's expensive, right? Like paying people nothing, that's what Taylor and Francis does. So anyway, keep going. Why did we sign this contract? So the Canadian, the Social Science Humanities Research Council 8 Scholarly Journal program wrote us in 2015 saying, boop, we were one of 2 journals of quite high repute in the Canadian academic social science and humanities world, which were given the boot that year. And what the letter said is, we're giving you 1 year of funding instead of the 3, and go sign a contract. Stop sucking the teat of the state. We're like, oh, okay. And they give us these reasons, and there are reasons, and I think we should debate some of these reasons. We are a small niche journal, which means that we actually, and we're run by volunteer faculty like me. We're not paid to do this. We're not making money, and we're all overworked with the acceleration of expectations for faculty and staff, and that's important because we had to look for other sources of money. So we surveyed our board, which is across Canada board. We have faculty from internationally as well. And so through that process, we got 3 names of publishers to approach. One was Pluto in the UK, which is a left publisher. The person who was running that said, well, you know what, we can't dance with the elephants, we're a mouse. No, can't make you an offer. Sage made us an offer. They wanted complete divestiture. They wanted to buy our whole journal. It would all be theirs, copyright theirs. We're like, no. And then the best offer was from Taylor and Francis in terms of money, and it's also a lease contract. So we're with them for 5 years. And we did that because, again, we didn't want to do this Faustian bargaining, but at the same time, like, if you want to pay people, you kind of need money. Like, and I wasn't going to go do a whole bunch of, like, raise money at the University of Ottawa, like, ding, 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 ding. Like, no, I mean, we don't have time to do that. And my dean doesn't like me very much, so I couldn't ask him for money because I'm a union activist. So, and I'm junior faculty at the time, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're kind of stuck. And my colleagues at Carleton have the same problem. So we signed the contract. Am I a happy customer? Well, there was 2 things we were worried about. We were worried about the content and control over content, and we were worried about the timelines that they were going to force us into, because when you control your own journal, you can sort of be flexible, like that author's taking a while, and finally they hand you the manuscript, and then you finally get the journal out, right? We were a little flexible. Well, Taylor and Francis isn't as flexible. And the content, well, it turns out the contract that we negotiated is very clear. We asked them in writing, in email. Apparently is legal standing if we ever get into trouble with them, saying, if we want to publish an article that Taylor and Francis has no clothes, is that okay? And they're like, sure. And it turns out actually they don't care what we publish at all. They don't even read it. They don't care if there's if there's typos all over it. They don't care either. So it's like there's not a lot of quality control either. And I'm really happy that they don't read it or care what's in there. But I'm like, it's just making the whole thing feel really like they're making what, profit margins of 40 to 50% on publicly paid labor. Because we're all Canadians working at public universities, it's your tax dollars paying us. So, yay, we're funding great profit margins for Taylor and Francis. I want to talk to you, well, one of the reasons why we couldn't pay for our journal ourselves anymore is we are the roadkill on the electronic highway. When we went to electronic, we're already at market saturation in Canada, like every institution subscribes to us, as all the public libraries have been squeezed. Some of them have booted us. Some of the associations have booted us too, although, you know, the Canadian Labour Congress is a loyal subscriber. They've never dumped us. But, I mean, again, the niche journal, and you've noticed socialism isn't so popular in Canada, although with Bernie Sanders in the US and all the crap going on, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll be the hottest journal, like, in the next 10 years. Doesn't seem so in Canada yet, but we'll see. But I do want to close by just talking about three alternatives. So I think there are three. One is, we have to break up these oligopolies. But again, most of these companies, as you guys know better than I do, are based in the UK, Europe, the US. Well, with things going on in the UK right now in the US, you think that Trump is going to like be interested in breaking up oligopolies like the robber barons of like the 1920s? Don't think I'd start with that political strategy. It's like fat chance. But really, I think that's what needs to happen. So more realistic alternatives in the shorter term are nonprofit and publicly funded alternatives. And so I'm very inspired by the stories of the biology journals that are publishing, I can't remember the name of the place, Canadian Scientific Publishing. They have a little office like near the airport in Ottawa. Basically, NSERC, when NSERC kicked them out too, because Harper, they went and started a nonprofit organization, and our colleague at the University of Ottawa, Jules Blais, is the editor of a journal called, anyone in the room? I'm forgetting because I'm not a biologist. Anyway, so there are nonprofit alternatives. But also I think for us, what we really would like to see is a public alternative, which is funded by universities. And I know that the Canadian Association of Learned Journalists is very much on this issue. So is the Canadian Knowledge Research Network, is also very active. The Lorimers, who are very well-regarded publishers in the Canadian community, have been talking and trying to start this for a long time, but when we signed this contract, it wasn't up and running yet. So I think with much more public knowledge, and also the universities getting increasingly squeezed, like we just had a big debate at the University of Ottawa where we collectively organized and defended the library from cuts. So now we have 0% promised in the next budget, 0% cut to the library, 0. Yay, even though we have no budget deficit at the University of Ottawa. That's another story, which I'm happy to tell you too. You should also know, full disclosure, I'm a union activist, so I know a lot about the budget of the university. But again, I think that what we need to do is that if we want to have high quality publishing and have decent jobs in this industry, the volunteer model is not sustainable. Some of my colleagues at SFU, Simon Fraser University in Communications, just did like this huge open access project. I talked to them now, they're like burned out. They're like, don't talk to me. Talk to me in a year. They're like, I can't do it. So, you know, we have to think about these ramped up expectations that everybody in the industry is facing. And so yeah, I think more public money, if we actually want to have knowledge and Canadian content, it's gonna require some public alternatives. So, thank you.